everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nat Reads Fanfictions, and welcome back to more. I am reading fanfictions. I'm related to an Exorcist, the Kamome Academy Experience. And here we are, chapter 4, The Classmates. And this is basically a rough example of that. I just took this from the internet, or yeah, I just took this from the internet. It doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and get started. First days of school, the hardest hurdle in any kid's life. Sadly for Yugi, it's one of the most nerve-wracking times. The last thing he wanted was to be a bully's next victim at a new school. Even though his best friends now were his bullies back then, he doesn't want the same thing to happen again. He was procrastinating in his room getting dressed. His face clearly stressed just after having breakfast. The last thing he needed to be doing is nearly making himself sick. Cole walked in wearing a light blue button-down with the standard tie with a red and white belt buckle on his nice white pants. He had a sweatband on his left hand, which was red, and something Yugi didn't catch before. A single piece of earring in his ear that hung down that looked like the cross between a safety sign and a good luck charm. He had his blue bag ready and was holding a golden-looking staff hidden under what looked like an umbrella parachute. Cole, what's with the staff? His blue eyes read his confused expression easily as he showed it to him. It's an exorcist weapon. I came to give you this. Cole handed Yugi what looked like fingerless red leather gloves. What's that for? Yugi took them from his cousin. He puts them on awkwardly as they were a little bulky fitting. Tyranny wanted you to have them at school. They'll protect you. For now, we need to get going. Tyranny's meeting us at school after he walks Tiara to preschool. Yugi nodded, grabbing his empty book bag, which he did put a spare notebook and pen in so he could write down the supplies he'd need for his classes. He adjusted his tie in the mirror and looking embarrassed in the white/gray button-down shirt, brown and light gray tie, and brown pants. He was still able to wear his sneakers as he pulled them out of the closet and walked with Cole to the front door. Cole passed him a small key ring with a key on it. This is for the house. Tyranny had them made in advance before we got your phone call. Yugi looked surprised, but put the key in his book bag as the two put on their shoes and walked out, locking the house up behind them. Yami floated next to him, ironically now mirroring his partner in the same attire. Cole chuckles as he notices this. Sully copies what you're wearing. So cool. Yami scrunches his nose in embarrassment. You're so chill about this, Cole. Have you seen ghosts for a long time now? Yami glances at Yugi's cousin as he asks his question. Cole rubbed his jaw thoughtfully as he thinks, since I was a little kid, probably Tiara's age, I remember watching my brother perform exorcisms. I thought he was doing a good thing, but recently I decided I'm not going to be the same as my brother. Yugi and Yami look at each other, but with the way Cole trailed off, it was safe to assume to leave it as that for now. They soon reached the gate of the school. Plenty of students were walking into the campus grounds, splitting off and heading to the two main buildings for their classes. Yugi noticed that there was a second gate at the west side of the campus with a gardening area nearby. Itoko, Cole called, breaking Yugi out of his daze as his amethyst eyes meet teal blue. Gomen, Cole. Cole smiles, not a big one, but a concerned one. Can you get to class, or do you need me to walk you there? Tyranny won't be here till class is about to start. Yugi looks to his partner, who smiled, giving a supportive nod. Yugi looked back at his cousin, smiling. We can handle it, Cole. Don't be late yourself. Cole grins his 1,000-watt smile. It was so wide he closed his eyes to express it. Good luck, Itoko. I'll find you for lunch. Oh, sorry about that. With that, Cole jogs in the other direction towards the middle school building. Yugi sighs and starts walking, but he can already hear people whispering. Who's that? Is that a new student? What was he doing with Minamoto-senpai's brother? Are they friends? Do they know each other? The whispers burned Yugi's ears. He shrugs off their skepticism as he walks to the classroom 1A and peeks inside. No teacher yet, so he crouched down in the hallway, holding his bag. The 5-minute bell rings as students start soon start to pile into the classroom. He didn't look up, not wanting to see his classmates until the teacher came. Muto Yugi, he looked up to see his teacher, a tall male with short brown hair. Yes, sir. The teacher nods and gestures for him to stay there as he shuts the door. Oh, stupid spelling grammar. The classroom was buzzing as he called their attention. Hi, settle down. He slaps his book schedule on the podium, catching the students off guard. They look towards him as he continues. We have a late introduction to the school year. A transfer student from Domino High. Come in and introduce yourself. Yugi took that as his cue to open the door and walk in. He faces the class, Yami just out of view behind him. Konnichiwa, my name is Muto Yugi. Hope we can be friends. He stammers a little. He looked down at his feet after his greet, nervous to catch anyone's gaze as everyone looked at him. Oh, you made it! A familiar redhead jumped from his desk in the back of the class. Yosh! Welcome, Yugi-kun! Yugi's face exploded in red at Schmidt's declaration as the teacher told him to sit down, and Yugi took a seat behind a girl with long cream-colored hair. Yugi eventually got the supplies list from the teacher's class. Even though he was his homeroom teacher, he was also the art teacher. Hope I don't cause them any trouble with all these supplies. The girl in front of him turns to look at him. Cause who trouble? Her sudden voice startled Yugi, who looked at her surprised. Her voice was kind of soft. Oh, my cousins. Even though Yugi could tell their father's job as an exorcist paid heavily, he still hated having to ask his cousins for stuff. He didn't want to be a hindrance. They're your family, right? Then it shouldn't be any trouble. He got a better look at the girl. She had short bangs, oddly shaped barrettes in her hair, which was long, cream-colored, with mint tips. Her eyes were ruby red color, which were mesmerizing. Yugi smiled and nodded. You're right. Suddenly a girl approached the two, followed by a red-brown haired male in glasses who looked like he was fawning over the girl, who had equally long hair, but it was a deep purple in color with equally lovely purple eyes to match. Nene-chan, you're so nice. You beat me in talking to the new student first. She spoke to the girl in front of Yugi before looking at him. Hi, Muto-san. My name's Akane Aoi. Just call me Ao-chan. She touched his hand, holding it in hers as if to shake it. I'm Yashiro, Nene. Nice to meet you, Muto-kun. She smiled at him, still turned to look at him. Yugi's face turned red. He tried to hide it behind his book bag. He wasn't used to being called kun or san or even being referred to by his last name. You don't have to call me that. Yugi is good enough for me. And with that, his energetic playing friends started chirping. Yugi-kun! He looked behind him to see the redhead put his arm around his shoulder and grinning. Why didn't you tell me sooner you were at this school? I didn't even realize who your cousins were until this morning when I passed Minamoto-senpai in the hallway. Yugi flustered red at his new friend's energy. Tsuchi-kun? How do you know Muto-kun? Yashiro looked confused at the closeness of the two who clearly shouldn't have known each other until today. Ah, he was my plane buddy. We talked and chatted on the plane. Yugi spoke up, ruffling his hair, blushing. He could feel Yami watching from the chalkboard at the front of the class, just watching over. You mentioned Frez. What about him? The male beside Aoi spoke up, directing it at Schmidt. Schmidt had a shit grin on his face as he ruffled the male's hair. Huh? Akane-kun? Finally curious about his student council president and secretary? The playfulness of his voice ticked off the male. The male known as Aoi Akane got flustered and pulled a bat out of his bag. You're gonna get it this time, Tsuchi. The redhead sweats dramatically, looking at the student council member. Don't be such a hard-ass, Akane-kun. Schmidt backed away and ran out of the classroom with the glasses-wearing bat-towing male chasing after him. Schmidt making girlish screams as he ran down the hall. Yeah! I hate making that noise. Yugi could hear Yami laughing by the door as he looked out the door, watching the two running in the hallway. Aoi looked down at Yugi, smiling. So, who's your cousin? Yugi looked embarrassed. Minamoto, Teru, and Ko. Both girls looked like they dropped dead in shock. Yugi sweated their expressions, which looked lifeless, until the bell rang for the next class. Ah, see you girls! Yugi grabbed his bag and took off out of the classroom for his next class, Yami floating along behind him. That was not a wise thing to do. Yami sweats looking at his Aibu sadly. Oh, shove it! Just from people's reactions, I'm gonna end up as popular as Teru at this point. Schmidt, why do you have to open your mouth? He moaned as he entered his next class. That's how much most of his day went, trying to hide from anyone who was curious about who he was related to, thanks to Schmidt opening his mouth. Finally, it was lunchtime. As he was hiding behind the staircase, he could hear Ko calling for him. Yugi! Yugi! Mom, where'd he go? Yugi looked at his cousin, looked at Yami, who rolled his eyes and grabbed Ko, even though it looked weird. Over here. Yami led the young exorcist to behind the staircase. Yugi, why are you hiding? Yugi covered his cousin's over excitable mouth. The last thing he wanted was attention from any of his usual and friendly classmates. My classmates Yashiro and Aoi freaked out on me this morning when they heard I was related to you two, and now I'm hiding from most of the school. He hissed passively. Ko pulled his hand off his mouth, speaking a little softer now. Oh, you know Yashiro senpai. Senpai. You know her? Yami looked at Ko curiously. The blonde nodded eagerly. Then, as if a thought hit him, he speaks up. Itoko, did nobody tell you about the school's 7 wonders? Yugi and Yami exchanged a glance before looking at the blonde. 7 wonders? The blonde nods. You see, in Kamome, there exist 7 wonders, all supernatural beings that exist in the school. To everyone else, they're just rumors that exist. But to those who are more sensitive to the supernatural, can actually encounter the wonders. Me and my brother, obviously, but Yashiro-senpai, she's connected to one of the wonders. Yugi looks at Ko curiously. Ko changed the subject. Let's go eat lunch with senpai. He drags him up to the cafeteria, people chatting away at the scene that Ko was making. There went Yugi's plan on hiding. After getting their lunch, Ko drags Yugi to one of the older buildings to eat on the roof. Why are we eating up here? Oh, Yugi's eyes widened, seeing 2 beings on the roof. One was the same girl from class, Yashiro. He finally got a look at what she was wearing. The girl's uniform, which was a light gray dress with matching ribbons, bows on it. But for Yashiro, she had a skull-shaped brooch on the front of her outfit. She wore black stockings and the flats that the school provided them to wear. The other had a more distinct look, wearing an old-fashioned hat and black uniform, black shoes. The two appeared to be talking when the boy vanished from Yugi's sight. Huh? There was a boy there. He blinks his eyes in confusion. He wipes his eyes to make sure he wasn't seeing things. Oh, he must have left. Ko walked over to Yashiro, who was eating her lunch. Senpai, how's your day? The girl smiles up at her younger classmate. I'm doing good, Ko-kun. There's a new student in my homeroom. Her eyes blink from him as she noticed someone standing by the roof doors. Yami, did you see that person? Yugi addressed his partner, who nodded, rubbing his head. I'm not familiar with actual ghosts, so they can manifest and vanish in seconds, then maybe. Yami was just as stumped about the vanishing act as Yugi was. They were both lost in thought as Yugi's classmate yells out, Muto-kun! It made him jump hard, his nerves fried from him constantly being on edge. Yashiro-san! He says it like a question. The girl jumped up and runs at him, making the new student flinch. He felt his hands being grabbed. Gomen-nasai! I didn't mean to scare you this morning. I blamed Ko-kun for not telling me sooner that his adorable older cousin was staying. Yashiro jabs an accusatory finger at her as it... Ugh. I cannot talk for shit. Yashiro jabs an accusatory finger at his younger cousin, who pouted, crossing his arms. I spelled that wrong too. Oi, I didn't know anything up to a week ago. Oto-san called Teruni and told us about Grandpa Muto passing away. He spoke in such a rush, he didn't think about what he was saying. He paled when he realized what he said. Yashiro looked even more stricken than she did earlier, sending a deep, apologetic look to Yugi, who looked down embarrassed. You were living with your grandpa. She hit the nail on the head. Something the two never would do in front of strangers, let alone the first time. Yami switched places with Yugi, his eyes opening to look at the two. Ko noticed the difference, while Yashiro looked in awe. You're the ghost I saw in the classroom. She reached out and touched his wrist, and her heart almost stopped feeling the warmth from his body. Ko looked shocked. Yami! Yami! Yashiro repeats Ko's words in shock. Yami smirked a little at their astonishment. Nice to meet you, Yashiro. Ko, you look like a fish. He said that in response to Ko's now hanging jaw. Ko looked like he was about to faint when he noticed Yugi's now spirit form behind the taller male, who was now taller than Ko. Is this for real? He's taller. His hair is different. So is his behavior. Yashiro whispers to Ko, who is trying to wrap his hand around it. Yugi, say something. Ko directed his response to the spirit hiding behind Yami. How's it possible that you're a ghost and Yami's all flesh and blood? Yami watched the two humor spreading onto his face as they're both dumbfounded. It's because of the puzzle that we could switch souls. Yashiro rubs her head. You're officially the strangest thing here at this school, and there's 7 wonders here that are supposed to be strange. Yashiro walks behind Yami to look at Yugi's spirit. Even though he was vaguely there, she could see him as if he was visible. Muto-kun, gomen, your grandpa would be proud that you're here with your family. The shorter boy looked at her. She could see the deep sadness in his eyes. Since coming to Tokyo, he hasn't talked about his grandpa's passing. He was already a burden to his cousins by living with them. He didn't want to bother them with his emotions as well. Ko reached behind Yami and grabbed Yugi's arm. Because he was so connected to the supernatural, he could feel Yugi's arm being solid but cold in its grip. Ko's eyes mirrored Yugi's, which were filled with sadness and a bit of regret. Yugi, my Toko, why didn't you tell me your tyranny? You're still hurting, aren't you? Why didn't you tell us? We're family. I know you just met us, but you should trust that we would cry with you over Grandpa Muto. His words reached the young now spirit. His eyes started to fill with tears as Yami sighed, squeezing his Aibo's hand. He tries to hide things even from me, so you're not alone, Ko-san. Ko looked at the spirit of the puzzle as his gaze hardened. Switch back. Yami let out a slight huff and a smile, and in a flash of light from the puzzle, Yugi was back, crying freely as Ko pulled his cousin into a tight hug. Ko rubbed his back. Tears in his own eyes were forming as Yashiro rubbed Yugi's hair. Nah, Muto-kun, let's be friends, okay? She held his hand, lacing her fingers into his, squeezing it gently. Yugi, with tears in his eyes, looked at her deep, ruby-colored eyes. He nods silently, not trusting his possibly broken voice as he looked at the smiling high school freshman next to his cousin. Aw, you having fun without me, Yashiro? The same boy in black clothing appeared behind the girl, hugging her tightly from behind, a playful grin on his face. Yugi looked up to meet the eyes of a black-haired and amber-eyed boy who looked no older than Ko. The boy's eyes widened at the amethyst eyes staring at him. Not only one pair, but a pair belonging to the spirit next to him. The ghost touched his hat on his head, a devious smile now plastering his face. My, aren't you a strange thing? Okay, you guys, hope you enjoyed this chapter. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya!